Well, good afternoon. Thank you guys for coming out on this Saturday. Thank God for the snow. I would like to call to order the Board of Trustees Planning Committee. Trustee Pearson.
Present.
Trustee Henyard, present. Trustee Stubbs is absent. Next, I would like everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If everyone will continue to stand, we're going to do prayer by Trustee Pearson.
Everybody bow your head. Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to have this meeting today. We ask that you have us do this meeting the way that you would have us do it and in good order for this village. Thank you for allowing us safe passage here, and please give us safe passage home. We know that it is only by your grace that we are here and that we are blessed with everything that we have in our lives. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. And for the record, the Board of Trustees Planning Committee was called at 12:12. Next, we have old business. There is no old business. And next, we have new business, Invest in Dolton program. I'm going to open it up with the citizens as we do our discussion. So we will not have citizens address. We will address everything during new business and Invest in Dolton program. So ask all your questions, and we will have an answer or a rebuttal for it. First, I'm going to start off by having Trustee Pearson read the guidelines for this program, and therefore you can ask your question afterwards. And I would like to state the reason why we're having this meeting is to basically inform you, the resident, of this program and what it's all about. If you have questions, I want you to speak on it, and that's why you're here. Please do not sit there and not say anything, because we're going to move forward based on what you say. All right, thank you.
Guidelines for Invest in Dolton initiative. The village manager is hereby authorized and directed to establish a program to raffle or auction village-owned vacant homes to a village resident or any person who seeks to live and own a home in Dolton to rehabilitate said home to comply with the village codes. 2, village owns vacant homes that will be sold by raffle or auction for a cost of acquisition of $5,000 to financially qualified persons. All raffles or auctions, qualified candidates must show proof of access to funds in a minimum amount of $40,000 to rehabilitate the property to qualify by way of line of credit or cash or bank approval loan. Once a candidate is deemed qualified, a list of vacant residential properties shall be prepared, and all qualified candidates will be allowed to participate in the Invest in Dolton raffle or auction program of any property offered by the village. Raffle or auction winners will receive an as-is conditional purchase offer. Property shall not be conveyed to the raffle or auction winner until the rehabilitation is completed and the work is approved by the village. However, to support and comply with lending regulations, the village may issue a reversionary deed or deposit deed with a closing escrow agent to assist to satisfy lending requirements. All rehabilitation work shall be performed by a licensed and bonded contractor registered with the Village of Dolton. Raffle or auction winners will be required to execute a 1-year renovation agreement, including a deed restriction that the property must remain owner-occupied for 5 years after completion of the rehabilitation. Failure to comply with the terms of the renovation agreement shall result in forfeiture of the property. The village manager is authorized to establish all program rules and regulations to implement and manage this program.
Okay, we will open it up by having anyone that has any questions or concerns to step to the podium. And then I'm going to give the floor to Trustee Muhammad. All the trustees are present as well. You guys can give your input if you like. If you do not want to, that's fine. But residents, if you have any questions, please step to the podium and ask your questions. The entire board's here, including the mayor, the clerk, and also the Attorney Bass. So please ask your questions. You got anything right now?
Good afternoon, all. I have several questions, but I'll start out with one, and I think as it gets explained, perhaps it might clear up some other questions. And I really want to understand who the village manager is and how's that defined, how are they chosen? Because in step 1, it says the village manager is hereby authorized and directed to establish a program. Who's the village manager?
Okay. I will refer that to Trustee Muhammad.
Thank you for the question. It says manager, but we have what's called a village administrator. Technically the same thing. We have an interim village administrator right now, which is Janice Johnson. As you may or may not know, Stan Urban has retired, and we have a national search, or either, I don't know if it's a national or a Illinois search for a new village administrator, but the person that carries on the duties as of now is our interim village administrator, which is Janice Johnson.
So the program is managed by Ms. Johnson, or is it managed through the trustees? How is it managed?
As stated in the ordinance and also stated in our guidelines, it's the village we can change that language, but again, the village administrator and the village manager is the same, which is Janice Johnson.
Okay. She's here today? No?
No.
Okay. So number 2, it says there's going to be sold by raffle or auction. How does that work? The raffle or auction, how does that process work?
I got someone to answer that question. What we'll do with that question, that's one. If you got a couple more, I got someone here that can answer that, which is our attorney, and he'll answer that for you.
Okay. So number 3, it says that the candidate must show proof of the funds and a minimum of $40,000. Is there some type of comprehensive scope of work that's going to be done on the property so that the potential buyers will know what they need to be approved for or how much cash they need to have ready available?
Okay, I hope our attorney is getting that one because that was kind of long. I was trying to write it down. Give it to me succinctly.
So for number 3, being able to show the proof of funds, is there going to be some type of scope of work done on each property, or is that going to be the onus of the potential buyer to get their own scope of work done? And if the repairs are in excess of $40,000, what happens in the program then?
Okay, that's 2 we got for him. What else you got?
The as-is, which is an interesting concept, and a lot of folks do as-is properties. I think that's going to tie back into that scope of work. At what point does a person have or does this program have guidelines against someone walking away from an as-is property, or what are the contingencies with the as-is? And I defer that to the attorney too.
So you got 3. We got 3
okay.
so far.
The recapture agreement that, it's not listed as recapture, but number 8, that's a recapture agreement to stay for 5 years. If someone is there any contingencies if they have to leave for any particular reason, if they move out of town, or do they have to pay back? Is it prorated? I'm sure it probably is, but that.
Excuse me. I'm going to call the attorney up so he can answer these questions. Can you come up? You can sit right here next to. Right, but he can come up here and he can, basically you can answer the questions for. Come up, Attorney Bass. Yeah, because we don't want to be in here all day. So you can come up, and as she's asking her question, you can give her an answer.
You can do it here or there, whichever.
Yeah, come here. Come sit by Muhammad. Sit by Trustee Muhammad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Afternoon, I should say. Your first question was a raffle, is that correct?
Yeah. Well, the first question, I think Muhammad answered, though.
Okay.
The guidelines for the raffle, how does that work?
Well, a raffle works like this. You'll have a qualified list of everyone who's qualified based on them having the resources to do the renovation work. And this is not something new. We did this in Harvey for about 8 years. And it's the same program that we did over there. And what happens is people are qualified based on them having the financial resources to do the renovation work. Because you don't want to have a situation where people want a house and they're not financially able to fix the house up. So what happens is you'll get a list of homes. The people will then look at the list and they'll determine which ones, those are qualified people at that point, will look at the house that they're interested in. They'll put their name in. You'll have 5 names, you'll have a basket, just like the old-fashioned raffle. Whoever wins, that's who gets that one house.
Wow. So that's interesting.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm thinking, could it not be, or can it be considered to have it to first come, first serve as opposed to a raffle? Because that to me would say whomever's ready and most interested in that property is going to make sure that they do everything they need to do to get it. A raffle to me, then this is just my opinion, kind of sets a tone that I don't know that I care for the tone that it sets. I think that if I'm ready to buy and I want this house and I got to compete against 5 people, I got my offer, I got my money in the bank, why do I have to go in a raffle?
That, I can understand what you're saying, but you may have 4 other people similarly situated like you. So
well, whoever comes first is the one. Well, that's just me.
The only thing I can do is I can answer your question.
Okay.
And everyone's a hypothetical. That's what you're giving me. At the end of the day, everybody is going to be ready at the same time with respect to them being qualified. Okay? Because you're going to create a qualification list. That's why you have to go out and get qualified to say you have the money. So you're then qualified for the property. Because, see, the village, I wouldn't think, want to be in a position to deal with those who are not financially able. Because I heard your last question was a recapture issue. And we don't want to get into that because at the end of the day, if they've already been financially approved, they've already got the property, there's no issue with them because they're qualified. We know they can do the work. And your point is, if I come in on Monday at 9 o'clock, and I'm saying I'm qualified and ready, I got my paperwork. Okay, that's fine. The lady may be standing behind you is 9:02, and she's getting it. And the reason why I say raffle, because that's the only fair way to do that if you set up a date and time when they're supposed to be qualified. It's just like any other type of situation when people are similarly situated. They'll give you a deadline. I'm sure they're going to come with a deadline as to when you're supposed to submit your data to show that you're qualified. Once that date is set, everybody who's filed will then be qualified. In other words, I don't think they have a situation where you come in and you qualify, so I want to get that house. I don't know if they're going to do that. The way this has been done historically, to be fair to everyone, is to set a date as to when you are to comply with being qualified.
I understand that process,
yes,
but
ma'am.
I don't personally think that's fair. I think what's fair to me is that if I do my work and I do everything I need to do to get my lending or whatever I have to do, and I come in at 9 o'clock and say I want this house, and I give you my money, then that's my house. And if,
no, stop right there.
Okay.
You're not giving any money at that point.
Well,
you're
whatever.
not giving a dime.
I'm doing a hypothetical. I'm thinking earnest money putting down.
No. What I'm trying to tell you, your hypothetical is incorrect. The only thing you're going to do is show me that you got $40,000 you have access to. That's it.
And I'm the first one in line that's interested in buying that house, and I'm saying this is my opinion. If I want that house, because I'm gonna be upset that I got to go into a barrel and hope my name is pulled because this is the property I want. But if I came in at 9 o'clock and I said I'm ready and I showed you the proof, why do 5 other people get to bid on my house?
That's it's not your house at that point.
Well, in theory, I get what you're saying in theory, but if you're talking about a potential home buyer,
yes, ma'am,
and they fall in love with bricks and mortar, and we all know that. That's what they love, and then I got to wait and see if my name is pulled.
Well, let me tell you a story that my law school professor told me about the word
tell me
fair.
A story.
Fair is in the eyes of the beholder, because what's fair to you may not be fair to me.
Okay, but I'm beholding.
I know. I get that.
Okay.
The only thing I'm saying to you is that even now there's a process for, it may not be the best example, but people are running for office. And you have to get in line. Who's ever in line at 9 o'clock, because they're looking for first ballot position. So whomever's in line have to go into a raffle. The only way, the safest way, we've always believed in law, if you got people competing for an interest, you have to come up with a way that's fair for people to compete. And what we've always viewed it as a raffle, I ain't got my hand in the till, there's no bias in it. 4 people want the house, I think that's great. But that's one house. They're gonna have a list of others for you to choose from. Yeah, that's the one you may like, I get that. Now, if they want to choose to do this in that fashion, I have no objections to that. The recommendation has always been a raffle, because see, that's always fair. Because there's, normally in these situations, people are questioning, how did she get the house? Who did he know? And those kinds of things. And raffle, everybody stand in front, you see it. It's fair and it's open to the public. It's transparent. Because see, somebody may say, you didn't get there at 9 o'clock. I'm just saying.
I hear you,
You know
saying.
what I'm getting at.
I do hear
So
what
we're
you're
trying to
saying.
take-
Yeah.
But we're going to agree to disagree on that one, because I don't agree with
Excuse me, Attorney Bass.
I'm sorry.
May I interject
ma'am, yes,
on
you
something? Because I don't recall what year it was, but they had the Officer Next Door program going on with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And Officer Green, her and I bidded on the same house. Okay, and it was like a lottery. Well, unfortunately, I didn't get the house. Officer Green got the house, so I wished her well. And we laugh about it to this very day, because I tell her, you got my house. But it wasn't our house, because it was a lottery, and she won. So that's the way
I get the lottery
Right.
concept. I'm just saying I don't agree with it.
Right.
Only because I probably would be ready before anyone else, and then if they don't meet the deadline, then they can't get in the lottery, I take it, right?
Her and I both
Okay.
qualified
You
for the
qualify
house
at the same time.
at the same time.
So all your ducks were in a row at
Yeah, all
the
my
very
ducks
same
was
time.
in the row. All hers was in the row. We met the criteria. Credit checked out, but unfortunately, I didn't get the house. She did, and then I came over to Dolton, and I got the building down the street,
And you're happy.
and I'm happy, and she's happy.
Okay. I still don't agree with it, so we can
Okay.
agree to disagree.
Thank you.
And I don't agree because I think that there might be a potential buyer that's ready before that deadline, and they have to first wait to a deadline, and they could very well get into the process early. That's my take on it. So if you guys can talk about it again, and then think about that could be a probability that you might want to reconsider that raffle. I don't know. That's just me.
Scope of work?
Scope of work.
Scope of work goes to the as-is condition.
Mm-hmm.
And you sound like you're a savvy person. You know what as-is means.
I do.
You're looking at what we know historically with respect to rehab. And I'm operating in now 4 villages. The work that I've been told by inspectors with respect to properties in Dolton, and it's a good thing, they're not as in bad a shape as in some of your neighboring towns. And the number of $40,000, some of the guys who went through there, these inspectors, said that may be a little high, unless the person wants to really make it look like the Taj Mahal.
The houses in Dolton?
The rehab money, because it's my understanding, once they identify these homes, they've already been inspected. The village doesn't want to get into a situation where they're defining scope of work, giving estimates on repairs. What they're doing is saying it's as is, and it's my understanding what's going to happen is once these properties are available, you'll be able to go through there with your own people. And
After you win the raffle?
No.
Before you win the raffle?
Exactly. Because see, you have to know what you want to bid on.
Exactly.
That's my point. So they're open. I'm just saying, this is not my first rodeo with this, and I
believe
get your
it's
question
not.
too, because I've had that before too. And what we're trying to do, and this is a concept that we believe to restore and improve what we call the tax base. And normally you have seniors that are leaving, they want to leave, young people are coming in, and there's not enough housing stock for them. In other communities, the seniors sell their homes, but they want to stay in the community. So developers come along and build townhouses for them, and the houses now go to younger people. But they increase the population in the town. They keep the money in the town. They keep the growth in the town. They don't lose people.
Right.
So since, unfortunately, in South suburbs, we've been plagued with the foreclosure epidemic, and this is the only way we've been able to put these houses back on the tax rolls, because the taxes are normally astronomical in the south suburbs, and that's a problem that we're going to address eventually, I'm sure. But this is a way for people to get into a house for $40,000 and probably walk into at least $20,000 to $25,000 worth of equity in the home, because they're going to be priced or valued at more than $40,000.
So let's get back to
Yes,
the
ma'am.
inspection piece of that.
Uh-huh.
So the homes have been inspected and have been deemed to need up to about $40,000 in repair.
Somewhere in the name of their rough estimates. They didn't go through, let me just say this to you, that's why the village doesn't want to get into telling you what that number is. They'll have it open for you. You'll go by and look at it. Your contractor will look at it and tell you what it's going to cost you. And then, of course, they're going to ask you, what do you want? Stainless steel, marble, and all those kinds of good things.
Well, does it go through the health and safety inspection
All
as
of
well?
those are going to be inspected. Everything.
Interesting. Do you have a list of the houses now?
I don't think they are. I think they're formulating some. We've got,
Not for public right now. Still inspected, going through clearing.
And we're doing the inspections through Dolton? Dolton is-
Preliminary inspection is done by the Village of Dolton.
Okay.
I want to make sure we got all your questions, because your last one was considering, that's the 5-year, that HUD clause, about 5 years.
The recapture agreement, yes.
Yes. You want to answer, in case someone went to leave before the 5-year period.
well, keep in mind, these are hard and fast rules, but this is a village, municipal government. They can work that out. If it's a hardship and it's not somebody who's trying to flip the property, make a profit, I believe that the mayor and the trustees will figure out a way to resolve that.
Well, I don't think it's a bad idea to have that, because that's an incentive for them to stay.
Exactly.
And if they leave prior to that 5 years, then I'm wondering, are you prorating that 5-year period?
What happens is you can put a lien on the property for the amount of money that, and you're right, on the proration play. That's what that would be, based on the amount of years that they would have been there. And normally what happens in those situations, the lender will probably force you to stay there for 5 years, because the loan is being given, underwritten with that criteria.
Okay. One more question. Is the the meeting that was held last week, was it? Yeah, it was last week, right? And we talked about, or what was talked about was the lending. Is this a part of this package, that lending that was presented?
Okay, would it be more specific, because you have people who weren't here last Saturday, and when you say lending, we got to talk as though this is the first time.
So at the meeting last week, that folks that didn't make it, there was a presentation about how to get a loan and what types of loan, FHA. The part that concerned me mostly was that one gentleman spoke about being able to get someone in a house with the 55% ratio back in. So if you understand what the ratios are, 55% is quite high. And my concern is that we're going to set people up for failure with that type of ratio.
I don't know about the ratio. I don't, delve in that area. But what I was focused on is that it's my understanding that the mortgage will be no more than $750, $800. And I think that was one lender that was there. And keep in mind, there will be,
Well, I get
there's
that.
a ton of lenders out here, and everybody's got different criteria. So I'm sure you're savvy enough to figure out which one's going to meet your needs.
I am, but most people aren't. And the reason that I say that is because if you have someone that really wants to buy a house and somebody tells you, I can get you a house, trust me, I see this daily. And people will accept. $750 doesn't sound like a lot to you, maybe not even to me. But some people will sacrifice things and then set their own selves up for failure. $750 may not be a lot of money, but you have to understand what's going on in that household with their finances. For you and I, it may not be.
I don't want it ever to be believed by your statement that I believe $750 is not a lot of money. What I'm saying to you, in the scope of things, to own a home for $750 a month, that's taxes, insurance, and all of your expenses, and to have at least a $25,000 equity in the house the day you walk in, I got to believe the lender, when they underwrite that loan, they'll be okay with that.
They probably
So
will.
let me add to that because it gets to the crux of your question. We will have these housing fairs every month, and primarily it's to educate the buyer. Because as you know, an educated resource buyer tends to stay in the property. And you mentioned a very interesting note on that back end of your debt, which we talked about. Because when they talk about 31% of your gross is
Finance.
based upon your mortgage, but then there's another part of your debt that's not calculated in that. But the way you know about that is coming to these classes. We want to educate you before you even look at a house. All these things that they're talking about, it might be going over some of your heads, but we'll have these every month, so by the time you get to that portion, you'll be an educated buyer.
So is that going to be a requirement for a participant
That's-
to complete so many hours of homebuyer's education or
That's
attend so many
correct.
classes?
Yes.
So that
That's
they
correct.
can be, okay.
Because we don't want to start that cycle again of foreclosure. And that's a key
Appreciate
point what
that.
you're mentioning. Getting in debt, now you got the house and then you're about to lose it again. So, and many of us who own homes weren't as educated. I'll speak for myself. I wasn't that educated until I started talking to you personally, number one. And number two, going to this housing fair and hearing about debt, credit at 500, and I think there was one lender took it at 530 something, which I thought was a risk. But there are lenders that do that.
Yeah.
But again, we would counsel you, why don't you wait? Build your credit up so you get a lower rate. That's just like with any credit card or any loan. You may not qualify for a house in 2018. You may want to build your credit up to get that house in 2018.
How many houses are in the inventory?
Well, there are approximately 400 that are vacant in the village of Dolton, which is a problem. And for years, I've
You
been
don't
here
need a
personally.
lottery with that. You got 400 houses, pick and choose. But no, I was just joking.
Oh, so that's
Then
been
we
an
don't
issue
need
in
to-
Dolton. So now we're coming up with a plan that, with the help of residents and individuals that have done this, to help solve this problem. Because it's been talked about that I know of for the last 5 years, how we got to get with the banks and other communities, they head it off at a certain time. This is the first time we're trying to take a hold of it,
So
to get a hold of this housing stock of approximately 400
another
homes.
question, I'm sorry, because questions keep popping in my
No,
head.
this is why we welcome.
So-
hold on one second. I just want everybody to know. I don't want you to feel inhibited of asking anything. That's the whole purpose of these committee meetings. So when we go to our regular board meeting, it's already been hashed out. We do our vote because it's had the input of residents and professional residents such as yourself.
So
You are a professional resident.
I have another question.
Yes,
and really in terms to your monthly workshops. What type of speakers are you going to have? I know you're going to have lenders there, and how are you vetting those people to participate in the program? Because trust me, from the industry that I work in, we know that predatory is still alive and well in our state and country.
Okay, you asked two questions. You said who will attend, and then second, I think you said how will they be vetted?
Correct.
Number one, we'll have contractors there. I have a list from our licensing person of persons who have done business in the village of Dolton who are licensed, bonded. Licensing, as I learned last week, you know how you hear the word licensed and bonded? That sounds really assuring, right? License, you just renew that every year. Bonded is very important because bond, if they don't complete the work, you can put a bond on them to get your money so that project can be completed. So all of these individuals who are contractors are licensed and bonded here in the village of Dolton. We will get input from persons like yourself, from NHS and others that will come forward who are professionals, because we don't say we know it all. So we're asking individuals like yourself and others to help us vet these. For example, we had a lender there last week who talked about on that back end of 55%, but there was another lender said, no, they don't do it that way. They had it a lower percentage. So we want to give options to the residents, if that answers your question.
That answers my question. My biggest concern is making sure that people that decide they want to buy and to buy in Dolton are prepared for homeownership, because it may seem easy. We might make this process look really enticing, but life happens to everybody, and if they're not prepared to take on any added other than that $750, then we're going to be right where we started again. People are going to default because the present thing we're asking for $750 to pay back, and my daughter has a birthday, but I only have $600. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to get a birthday party because you're asking too much. So it's education, and making sure that they get in the right products they're going to be able to afford long term. I'll hold off on any other questions. Can I come back if I have more questions? For right now, that's all my questions.
Well, we're trying to cut it short. That's why I'm having everybody speak now. Anybody else have any other questions or concerns that want to address the body? No more questions? Okay. The mayor has a question. And if you have a question, you just come to the podium here. Yep. Anybody, you can line up if you like.
Good afternoon, residents. First of all, I want to say that I'm as new to this program as you are in its inception. And got a lot of questions. First of all, I thought this program was the purchase of the houses that were available for $5,000. Is that correct or no?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question. You say again now?
I thought this program was developed so residents could purchase or invest in Dolton for $5,000 to purchase a house.
When you say purchase the house, I'm trying to understand. I can explain it as I explained it before. What will happen is that the city will take title to the property. The property. I'm sorry.
I understand that. But I thought it was put out there that a resident could buy a property for $5,000. Yes.
Well, see, that's what I was getting. I didn't understand this question. You're saying
Okay.
just straight up buy it?
That's what I thought it was developed upon.
No, see, first of all, you don't want to be in a situation where you have a lot of people who are interested and they're not financially able to do it. Then you have situations where people won't fulfill it, and then the house will be back there, and you have to deal with it.
I understand that. I understand that.
But as we explained with this young lady who was at the mic before, it's hard trying to figure out who's going to get the property if everybody qualifies at the same time.
I understand that.
Yes, sir.
But where did this $5,000 come from?
$5,000 is acquisition cost. Land is not free, is it?
No, it's not free.
Okay. So there has to be a process done.
Okay. So where does the $5,000 come from?
Legal fees, court costs, 2 publications, sheriff, out-of-state service,
Okay.
record of deed fees.
Okay. So to purchase the house, you're not saying it's $5,000. You're saying that a person to even qualify has to have $40,000.
$5,000. I can explain it. I'm not going to defend the program.
Okay.
It's my understanding that the $5,000 is the money you would pay in order for you to get the contract to be able to actually own the property.
Okay. So now we're at that point.
Mm-hmm.
They have to have an additional $40,000 available from that point to enter the auction?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It all depends on the person's financial situation.
So I get $5,000.
Right.
And if I can't qualify for $40,000, I can't have the house, right?
I think that would be correct because I don't think they would want to take $5,000 from you knowing that you don't have the money to fix the
Well,
house
I think
up.
that it was kind of misleading to get some of these residents here thinking that they could buy a house for $5,000 and not knowing in the beginning, in the inception of this program, that you have to really qualify for $40,000.
Well, I'll go back to your first statement when you said that you were unfamiliar with the program. And I can understand that because people talk a lot about programs. And that's why we're here today, to bring clarity. I don't know what was said to people before. The only thing I know is if you read the ordinance, that's the gospel, that's the Bible as I take it. And it says in there that you pay $5,000, as was read, I believe, by Mr. Pearson.
No, the guidelines.
The guidelines. Talk about that.
Yeah, the guidelines.
So that's why I'm trying. I don't know what people may have said in gossiping and saying things. I can only tell you what the ordinance reads as.
Okay. Nothing was said, just weren't, well, I take that back. Take that back. When this was brought up at the board meeting, nothing was said about the $40,000 that had to be available for the rehab. So I think it was misleading for some of the residents that are here today that wasn't aware of that. But you clarified it now, and that would probably disqualify some of the people that was interested and was here, bought here for the interest of buying it for $5,000. Secondly,
I'm sorry.
Secondly, how was these houses selected?
Well, first of all, the selection has to be determined based on vacancy, taxes, liens, fines, abandonment, and those kinds of things. That's the first qualification.
Okay. Trustee Mohammed said there's a list that's existing right now that the public has not been put out to the public. I saw that list. So I want to know how those houses that were on that list, how were they selected?
Okay, Mayor, as you know, we hired a company, as you well know, that is in charge of securing these homes, whether they be abandoned, owned by banks, foreclosed, or whatever. So in conjunction with that organization that we hired, based upon an ordinance that was passed unanimously, we use that as a resource to get these properties. We have approximately 10, but as the year goes by, we will get more from that 400 or so that's vacant.
So
And that list that you saw was privy to those who work here, not to the public. That's not a public list yet because persons would have to first qualify. And it is under litigation, those houses.
So those houses were picked by BP Capital?
Correct.
Okay.
I'm trying not to mix apples and oranges here because I really want clarity, because I want people not to be misled, because the whole intent of this program is to rebuild this town. I'm not going to get involved with who said what, who did what. I'm only interested in trying to work for the betterment of people who look like me. And I don't make any apologies for that. And my concern was the deterioration, the vacancies, the high taxes, the lack of opportunities for home ownership in the south suburbs. And BP Capital came as an African-American guy who basically wanted to make a difference, and he did. With that process, when I explained this to the body, I said we would also be looking at every vacant property that's here in Dolton, because Trustee Hinyard, I'm sorry, what's your last name?
Yeah, Hinyard.
Hinyard was expressing an interest that the village wanted to participate.
Attorney Bass, we don't need to draw this out. I asked how was the property selected, and Trustee Mohammed said BP Capital. So we don't need a long.
Well, I'm
dress it
sorry,
up
if I'm not
type
going to be
deal.
allowed to
Okay,
talk, I'm
yeah.
not going
You're going to be allowed to talk, but I asked Trustee Mohammed, he answered the question. The other thing.
Mayor, we were trying to get clarity because, again, and no disrespect to you, we got persons
got
here
my
for the
answer.
first time.
I
Yeah,
got-
but
I
the
got my
answer is
answer.
also
Okay.
for the residents. It's not just for you, Mayor.
yeah.
It's also for the residents. And with all due respect, we want to try to have an orderly meeting. And if the attorney is in the middle of a thought to bring clarity to
Trustee
the resident,
Mohammed.
we should let him complete it.
Trustee Mohammed, you answered my question. Thank you. These properties that have been selected, have any of them been sold at tax sales?
They may have a tax lien on them, and let me explain that to you because I think that's where you're going. I've only been doing this for over 35 years. I used to work in the assessor's office regulating tax sales. Even if a property is bought at a tax sale, it doesn't give them any more than a lien. They have to perfect it to get title. Most of them in the south suburbs apply for what's called a sale in error, because they have no interest in going to title on the properties because the taxes are too high. Once the village files against the property talking about it being vacant, abandoned, and having tax and water bills, the tax buyer files with the assessor's office and gets a sale of error. Those people go away because they're not interested in doing anything but selling tax certificates. They don't want deeds.
Okay. You said you did this in Harvey for 8 years?
Yes, when Nick Graves was there, 1992 until that administration left. And we took over 150 properties.
Okay. What villages? You say you work for 4 villages now. What are those
Well,
villages?
now I've added you. I've got the township. I've done
Okay,
it
he can ask his questions. It says his address. He can
No,
ask his
that's fine.
questions.
That's fine. I've done it in Riverdale, And I represent Thornton Township too. I've taken 2 for them.
Okay.
And here as well.
Okay.
And Harvey.
You said right now you
4.
want 4 villages. I heard only Riverdale, and then I heard the township. What are the other
Well,
3
you got
villages?
Dolton too.
What are the other 3 villages?
Riverdale. I'm doing work for Mr. Jackson.
No, you said
4 now.
you're representing 4 villages. You mentioned Riverdale,
Right.
and you mentioned the township. What are the other 3 villages?
I'm working right here now.
That's 2. Okay, what's the other 2?
Riverdale.
Riverdale and Dalton. What's the other 2?
Harvey, I'm doing work for Mr. Kellogg as well.
Okay, and the other one, the 4th one?
The 4th one, you can consider that the township.
Consider it.
Tell you what, I misspoke.
just-
There's 3 in 1, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, that's all I'm asking. I'm trying to verify what you.
Oh, Markham, I have done it, just so
Okay.
you know that. You can add that to the list.
Okay. Who's going to control the raffle?
Again, as it states, did you get a copy of the guidelines, Mayor? Did
Yes.
you get the copy of this?
Yeah.
Okay, and it'll tell you that the first one, if you read it, and I think that was one of Ms. Wells' questions. The village manager is hereby authorized and directed to establish a program to raffle or auction village-owned vacant homes to a village resident or
Okay.
any persons.
All right.
Let me finish answering your question,
Okay.
Mayor. Or
Okay.
any persons who seeks to live and own a home in Dolton to rehabilitate and said home to comply with all village codes. And the second part of her question is, how do you define it? I said, well, village administrator / village administrator or manager is basically the same. We have an interim village administrator, which is Janice Johnson, because our previous village administrator retired, and we are on the lookout for a new one, which is being posted as we speak.
Well, first of all, the village manager and/or administrator is my appointment. Secondly, Janice Johnson is not the interim village manager. I did not appoint Janice Johnson as the interim village manager. Janice Johnson has picked up some of the duties of the old village administrator, but she is not the village interim manager.
Do you have any more questions for the attorney?
The other thing is, how are we being billed for these houses that are being?
Again, I'll answer that for the attorney. And Mayor, it was in an ordinance, and for those who were here, I believe, Mayor, at that last regular board meeting, you said that you would probably veto this ordinance because the attorney had not looked at it. And if you look at the ordinance, which the attorney did, and by the way, the attorney found nothing wrong with this ordinance, by the way. It was not vetoed because the attorney for the village of Dolton found nothing wrong with this ordinance. But if you would look at the ordinance, which you should have a copy of, Mayor, and if you go to that particular section, it tells you exactly how it's done through the lawyer fees and through our budget of any fees that are paid to any attorney that's doing legal work for the village. And
Okay.
it's stated clearly in the ordinance. And
Okay.
hopefully this ordinance is posted, because based on the transparency ordinance that was passed this past summer, this should be on the website for all to see.
So for those residents that are unfamiliar with the ordinance, for their clarification, just want to make it clarified to them, what is your fee per house to proceed on these houses?
As stated within the body of the ordinance, and I'll draw your attention, sir, to the provision that deals with that section 2, the acquisition fee is $5,000, a flat cost
Per house.
per house,
So right,
as opposed to an hourly billing rate.
yeah. So right now, I think there's over 10 houses on the list that hasn't been shared with the public. So we're looking at a $50,000 fee, attorney fee, just to get started on these houses. Just to get started on these houses. The houses have not been sold. We haven't qualified anybody yet to buy these houses, but the village is on the line for a minimum of $50,000. And I just think that's outrageous.
Okay.
wants to answer.
No, I don't.
You wanna-
I don't want to drag this out. I don't want to drag this out.
Getting into a personal
So,
thing.
so,
it really
so
shouldn't,
it's not
because-
personal, it's
because
the
the mayor was not
taxpayers'
willing-
dollars. It's not personal, it's the
Well,
taxpayers'
the
dollars.
taxpayers'
Thank you.
There's
dollars.
an alternative. The
Yeah.
alternative is to sit and do nothing and leave the houses vacant.
Okay, did you?
Get on the
wanna-
mic, trustee, to get this recorded, and hopefully it won't be edited and taken down from Channel 4 and 99, like other meetings have been done by this mayor.
I just want to state this to the residents. Friday night, a resident called me at his new purchased home. It was a lady in there, maybe 35 years old. He purchased a house. When he went in there to take measurements, he found a squatter. Okay? This lady was in bad shape. She was maybe 88 pounds. He didn't want to call the police. He had his workers with him. He didn't want to say that he didn't did something to her. So I took it upon myself to go to the police department. Also, I reached out to several of the trustees to let them know what the situation was. The lady had frostbitten feet. The police, I met them there at the house, along with the fire department and the ambulance. Minister White was also with me. She rode in the ambulance. I followed the ambulance to Ingalls Hospital. This lady was dehydrated, and had we not went inside this abandoned house, like we have so many out here, and who knows who's up in there, because of the nature of the weather, no heat, the lady might have froze to death. I'd rather see a program in place, residents. I'd rather spend the $50,000 to the attorney if we can get these houses back on the tax roll, so we won't have squatters inside the house, so we won't put nobody's life in jeopardy. To me, it's worth the $50,000 to take care of these abandoned properties. I have also in the past suggested secure view, where instead of having boards up to the window, we have clear plastic, hard plastic put up to the window so we could see into the houses. The police chief also said that that will be safer than the boards, because you don't know who is behind those boards. The mayor said, no, that's not the way to go, is not secure enough. Excuse me, I'm speaking. And therefore, the boards remain up in the houses, and along with the young lady that we accompanied to the hospital. Now, is a person's life worth $50,000? I think so. And you don't know who's up in these houses. You don't know if children is up in these houses. A couple of years ago, one of my tenants brought a young lady to my house along with her 8-month-old baby from the street because they had no place to go. When it comes to the shelters, the shelters take in from 7 o'clock in the evening, and they let these people out at 7 o'clock in the morning. When he brought the baby to the house, I couldn't turn the lady and the baby around. I took them to the hospital to get checked out and to find shelter for these people. And you only have a few shelters in the community to house homeless people. And to me, I can't put a value on a human life. And nobody know, and the lady wouldn't talk the other day. She didn't talk. So you don't know who is behind all of these homes with this wood on. So I'm asking you to have some compassion, to think about the people that's out here that might still be in the house. There's a lot of squatters out here. I went to some of those houses on the list, and there was people living in them. So I had them to be checked out to see were they squatters. So I'm asking everybody to really, really, really think about this. In our community, I've been living out here for 18 years. Trustee Pearson been out here for 30 years. Trustee Henry been out here her whole life, going to school. Trustee Muhammad been out here 18 years. I don't know how long the mayor have been out here. The Creighton's been out here 30 years. 40 years. And we would like to see, this is not about me. The Denton's been out here 30 years. This is not about Valerie Stubbs. This is about my community, a community that I moved in here for a reason, because I've been working in the community ever since day one. When someone called me with a problem, I go. I don't have any problems seeing about my community, because in order to do this job as trustees and as a mayor, you have to have a love for people. And that's something that I possess. And I can attest to the trustees here. This is not about us, how to get rich. I retired off of a job. I worked at 26 in California. A lot of times those guys got locked up on purpose so they can have a warm place to go in the wintertime. Everybody wasn't guilty of a crime. They went there so they can have 3 squares and warmth. And this is all I'm asking you all to think about. This is a great opportunity for us to put our houses on the tax roll, and also as young people or as older people to obtain a home. When President Obama came into office, he gave a package for first-time home owners, $8,000. My daughter lives in Montgomery, Alabama, not Dolton. It have been stated that they was here working, getting $80,000, and I had 2 sons that been in and out of jail. Untruth. I have 2 daughters, and neither one of them live in the state of Illinois. Well, my daughter purchased her first home at 36 years of age. She still have that home. So if we can educate our young people, everybody's talking about losing your home, but if you educate the young people, if you teach them about budgeting, if you teach them how to write a check, it's up to us to teach our young people on how to take care of their affairs. That young lady, I heard her say some months ago that we have to teach our young people. If we don't teach our young people, who will? We can't depend on nobody else to take care of us. We have to take care of ourselves. So when we all got together, talked about this, bought this idea, we didn't just do it overnight. I knew about Markham before the program even came here. I talked to Mayor Jackson all the time. I talked to Mayor Denton all the time. I talked to various mayors in various communities and trustees, and how can we help ourselves in our communities as opposed to fighting like cats and dogs with one another.
Yes.
When is the fighting gonna stop?
Yes.
When are we gonna all come together as a people and do something different? Because this here right here is old. Fighting amongst one another. And if you have faith and trust in God, as we sit up there every board meeting and say, Mr. Creighton, can you please lead us in prayer? That obviously don't mean anything to some of us, but it means a great deal to me, because I have trust and faith in these trustees, the mayor. If we can all work together, that we can accomplish what we set off to accomplish with these abandoned houses. That's why this meeting is being held today, because we asked the residents input. We want to know what you think, because this is not only your tax dollars, it's my tax dollars too. $13,000 in taxes is a lot of money that I pay out, for my community. And I can take my tax dollars and go over there to South Holland or somewhere else with $13,000 in taxes. But I choose to stay here. I choose to stay here with the Dentons because I know they care about their community. I know Mr. Denton is walking up and down the street every day. The Creightons are doing the same thing. It's a lot of you. I always see you all out and about. I just want to say this, if you don't mind, and I'm not trying to hold anybody here, but I want you all to reach deep in your heart, not go off your feelings, but look into your heart about this program that we are implementing that can be beneficial to all of us, not just some of us, all of us. I'm not looking to buy a house. If I could help somebody and give them a gift to put in a bank account so they can obtain a house as long as they can maintain it, if I can give them the knowledge that I know to maintain all the houses that I have purchased and inherited in my day. If I can show them how to do the same thing like I have shown my children and my neighbors. Thank you.
I just wanted to say something in regards to the trustee statement in regards to securing of these abandoned houses. We have two companies that represent us in securing these houses, and they use plywood. Now, the securement process that she was talking about would cost us 4 to 5 times the amount that we would pay to secure those properties. That's your money. That's the taxpayers' money. When we secure these abandoned properties, we get the bill and we pay for it, or you pay for it. So I couldn't see us spending 4 to 5 times the amount of securing that property where plywood would do the same thing. Secondly, I do think we need a program for the abandoned houses, but I don't think that we should pay $5,000 per house to get this processed. Now, that's just for 10 houses. If you talk about we got 400 abandoned houses, figure that what that'll cost. Even if it was just we did 50% of it. Why couldn't we have a program that said, okay, you want to charge us legal fees to process these houses? Why don't you get paid when the house is sold? Mm-hmm. You charge us $5,000 just to put it out there.
Right.
Now, what if we don't get anybody to qualify for $40,000? Now, we've been billed the legal fees, and the house still sits there. And the rate of return, once the house is sold, we're not going to get any tax money for probably 2 years once it's sold. And it's back on the, it's on the market when somebody buys it. Why do we have to pay $50,000 up front? And that's just for 10. Now, if you want this program to continue and go forward, and we went with 100 houses, how much money is that? Sure, we need a program, but the attorney, he said his interest is the south suburbs, getting these houses back on the property. He's in business to make money. And he may, and that may be a goal of his also, get somebody to occupy these houses. But I just think it's too much money for us to pay to get it done. And if we're going to get it done, why can't he get paid on the tail end once the house is sold? Thank you.
This is the second time I've come to this village with an idea to try to help improve the lives of the people, and my character has been attacked. And I went to Howard Law School, and I don't play that. I worked for 35 years to get the reputation I have in my community. There's no lawyer that basically files an action, pays over $2,500 in filing fees, publication costs, and they wait at the end to get paid. Just as the mayor comes and sits at these meetings and works every day, he gets paid an annual salary. I'm only doing what every lawyer in America does, bill for my time. That's what I do. I came up with a flat rate that all the other villages are paying. You're not paying any more, any less. So when you hear people try to divide you about what I'm getting paid, you have to be concerned about their real interest. This program, as you heard, was going over in Markham, going over in Harvey. My only concern is, why haven't you had it thus far?
Yes.
But what I was concerned about is that when I was told that Dolton had more vacant properties in the south suburb than any town in the south, in Thornton Township, let me get that clear. I thought that there was a need for me to deal with that, because I know what's going to happen. You won't have enough money to pay your police and fire. You won't have enough to keep this operation of administration going.
That's right.
So my position was, how can I help that town? It's not about me getting paid, because if I wanted to really get paid, I'd charge you a lot more than $5,000 a flat rate to get a house that basically, as it sits, is worth more than $5,000 when the village takes title. So I have an issue with people who try to divide us when we're trying to do positive things.
Yes.
Because this is not about me. This is about you.
Thank you, Attorney. Let's hear from the residents now.
Okay, as a concerned citizen, I just like to say this, that an administration that doesn't have any order will be known for disorder. And, you know, I've come to these meetings and, you know, and just try to see who's leading us. There's a need. $5,000 is an investment. It's nominal. And I think we as residents have to determine if $5,000 is worth an investment. I think as a homeowner, that's nominal. To have the ability to reinvest and to raise a family in a home, I think that's nominal. But I just wanted to say that just scouting the land here in Dolton, the leadership has to come together. And you guys, you know, represent us, and I can say, sadly, that it hasn't been a great representation of who we are, because as we spoke, there are some people here that really love this community and want to see this community come back to what it should be in the 21st century. But I just have some concerns and some questions. How do we derive at the $5,000? Okay, so if you can answer that, how do we actually, why wasn't it 10 or why wasn't it 5? How do we derive at that?
We actually priced this back in 1992, to be honest with you. And what we did is we looked at all of the filing costs.
Okay.
And see, all of these cases are not situations where they won't be contested.
Okay.
So there'll be more than one court appearance for them. And my position was, as opposed to building you an hourly rate for my time and travel, I'm looking at a flat rate all in. And some of these, they will be hotly contested.
Okay.
Because people will come back and the lenders will come back and try to claim their interest. And I'll have to fight that. It may be more than 2-3 appearances. And I have to travel back to court. And you know, when you go to court, it takes time.
Right.
And you bill for your time. But one thing I know, I represented John Stroger for 30 years over at county. And I'm always sensitive to villages and towns because you're paying taxpayers' money.
Right.
So you hit it right when you said it's an investment. The program was designed so the village would put up the $5,000, and the person who would buy the property, you'd get your money back.
Yeah.
So really, and when I heard a gentleman say, who's to say that you're going to be able to rehab these houses or anybody will want them? You heard a lady sitting here telling you that she'd be competing with other people. You've got investors who would want these properties for $5,000, but they shouldn't get it for that.
Right.
Because they're going to make money off of it. The village should be investing it to get people back into the town to stabilize the community.
I agree.
That's how we came up with that rate.
Okay, great. And are these properties free and clear, or are these free and clear title?
You know, the best thing about this, sir, at the end of the day, it's like giving new birth to a child.
Okay.
The title is clean.
Okay.
Because everything is wiped out. Mortgages, liens, everything is gone.
Okay. So any back tax, anything is free and clear. Okay.
Gone.
Okay. And when you say residents, are you saying, because if I own a home here, I can buy a second home, or is it someone outside of Dolton, live in the city, can come here and reside here, or is it renters? When you say residents, can you?
It's my understanding the way the home ownership and what we always agreed that this would be, it's all about home ownership.
Right.
If not investors.
Right.
Not investors.
Right. So
That's why this is different than the other deal that was going on with another entity.
But I think his question
Well, when you say
is,
residents, if I live in Dolton, I can only purchase a house that you guys have, or if I live in Chicago, I want to
Can you
move to Dalton,
purchase
can
here?
I purchase the
So
home?
I guess I'm hearing from you if you wanted a second home in Dalton.
Yeah, I'm asking.
Okay.
If you're in,
Well,
Or he could be
again,
a renter. He could be a renter gonna move to Dalton, out of a rental into a home.
okay,
So
someone
that's
who's
what we're
renting
trying
can
to
move
track.
into it? Okay.
yeah, we have to put that together. That's where we're missing. We
Okay.
don't have structure there. We need structure to say that you live in Chicago and you want to buy a house and you want to live here for 5 years, you can do that.
Okay.
but it's a great question. What's your name?
William Moore.
Mr. Moore, it's
Yes.
a great question because on our guidelines, this is a draft.
Okay.
Much of this is a draft.
Okay.
And that's why we invite you, because now you're coming up with a question. Because I think it was asked of me earlier by another trustee, say, what if my mother wants to buy a house for my sister?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I guess you can do that, but she can't be an investor. No, the daughter will be living there.
Right.
So, those are those are the things that we have
Okay.
to fine tune.
Okay, because that was my next question. Can I gift, my daughter can I gift to my daughter?
Right. You will
You
be
know.
buying
So-
because you be considered the investor because you have the money, but you're buying for your child.
Okay.
So that's why I was telling them that we need to restructure this so you
Yeah,
can't
because
do
she still
that.
lives with me, and I want her to get out
You
of
know
the
what?
house.
What you're saying
with the money.
You know what, sir? That's
But it
exactly
might be
what the
the
intent
money
is.
in her name.
That's exactly what the intent is. For
He
you to
would,
have an
that's what I was
opportunity
saying. So a lot of people
for
like
your
that, like they live in
family,
the
your
house.
daughter,
She
your
won't
son,
want her kid out.
to live in the same community with you.
Yeah.
And even if you bought the house, you can buy it as
Well, I want to give her.
together.
I want to give her the 5,000, and it's in titles in her name. I don't want
That's,
my
that's
name to
fine.
be
As
on
long
it.
as she lives
Right.
here, that's good.
Right, but everyone can't do that. For instance, some parents
Okay.
have to have it in their name because the kid might not have any credit whatsoever,
yeah,
or
that's
don't
true.
have good credit. So that's the issue we have now. I
Okay,
get a
so
lot
there'll,
of
there'll be
questions
some
regarding that.
criteria. There'll be some criteria set.
Yeah, we need to
for-
restructure that. Yes.
More than likely, what I will suggest to the trustees from a legal perspective is that they could be on the deed, but not on the mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay? So then they're entitled, and you fit the statute.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause all we want to do is avoid investors
Right.
that
Okay.
are just renting houses to people.
Right.
And we want to clean up the stock, because right now, we're doing nothing.
Yeah.
Yes, some people come in and buy some of these homes, some investors come in and buy them, but the way we end up is we still have a lot of vacant homes.
Yeah, because they have no stake in the
Exactly.
Yeah.
So why would anybody want to fight a program that we're trying to put together to put the houses on the tax rolls with people who are going to care about the house that they live in? Because you talk to a lot of renters and they say, it ain't my property, I don't care. And so that's what we're trying to get away from, get some homeowners. So ideas are welcome. You can always, like he said, a draft, work on it, get it perfected. We're just trying to come up with something that's going to work. And we don't want to fight about it. We want to talk to people and say, what's your idea? Yeah, we can put that in. We could work with that. Go to the attorney and say, does this make sense? How do we do this? That's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to shove anything down anybody's throat. We're trying to turn the housing stock around
Yeah.
with an attorney who's done this before.
With all due respect to the mayor and the trustee board, I hope that we as residents realize that they work for us. And we have to take this approach. It's amazing to me. I kind of came, I was doing some of my own personal business. I said, man, this is going to probably be crowded. I'm amazed that it's not enough. I don't know if it's got to do with marketing, whatever the case is, but we as concerned residents have to be concerned about how they serve us. And it seems as though we are become subordinate to them, but I pay. And I think we have to come together as residents to make sure that our tax dollars are being used as, $13,000 a lot of money. If I spend $500, that's my hard-earned money. It's a lot of money, and that's relevant. So I think it's important that we kind of get these questions. I get these questions answered, and so I have another question. The contractors that you guys have, and I know you mentioned that you guys have a list of those contractors here. Can we get our own contractors that we feel that we have a relationship with?
Yes.
And they have to go through a certain criteria.
Okay. Okay, great. And do the contracts that you guys have, would it include, or do they have where we can hire some youth that can actually work, learn a trade? Because, you know, I mean, I went to college.
Yes.
Everybody's not college material.
Yes.
Yeah, but when you get your own contractor, he has to be licensed and bonded.
Yes.
It can't be JoJo that live in the
Oh,
basement
sure, I
and do
understand
plumbing.
that. I would prefer that.
And
Okay.
we do have
Because if you
that.
roll off my roof,
Yes, but that job initiative is also implied,
Okay.
and Bishop Davis is doing this as we speak. So to
Okay.
answer your question, yes.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of important to me, because now they feel that they have some ownership here. They can go by and say, I helped put the floor here, and now we getting, and they're learning the trade. Okay, and so that goes back to when the contractor's doing the work, will they allow some of the residents, if they don't have the $5,000, can they do equity share or sweat equity? Say, I'll come in, I'm a carpenter, or I'm an electrician. And
It's funny you should say that. I used to represent Bethel New Life on the west side, Mary Nelson. They did a lot of development, and they built homes on sweat equity. What happens is when you go into the lender, when the contractor puts the bid together for you to get the loan, they'll basically take away certain work things that, or I should say, segments that the contractor would do, and you would say, I can do the painting, I can do all those kinds of things. Take that money off of the bid amount that you're submitting to the lender. And that's how you reduce the $40,000 by
Okay.
doing your sweat equity.
Okay.
Things you can do.
okay, so with that program, with the
Sure.
program,
You work that out with the contractor. because
contractor.
The contractor is going to submit, if it's a 203K loan, they're going to submit that information to the bank.
got it.
And if you say, and normally people say this, I don't need you to paint.
Yeah,
I'll pick my own colors and I'll paint. But people have to understand, painting is not cheap.
right.
And that's a huge segment. Landscaping, all those kinds of things. Anything you think you can do, you tell the contractor, no, I can do that.
Okay.
And they write it. Now, they'll put it on there, but they'll put a 0 next to it, because the lender wants to know it's getting done, because that's going to involve, or I should say, affect the fair market value of the property, because
Yeah.
they want a completed project.
Okay, great. But that answers all of
It's
my
all
questions.
your
I appreciate it. No, thank you.
Okay. Okay, I have a statement. Go ahead. Who's next? I'm sorry. And I'll make my statement real quick. For the record, I think this is a wonderful program. I am all for this program. But everybody that knows me, I'm so outspoken. A lot of people tell me, Tiffany, calm down. You too loud. Calm down. If you just sit and tell people what you think, they'll hear you, right? My thing with this program is we got a lot of issues. We have to fine-tune them in order for this to work. All the bickering and back and forth amongst the board, everybody is entitled to their opinion, but I don't think you should just shut people up. Listen to them and then go back to the drawing board and fix it. That's how I look at it. The problem I have with it, and I know people say, oh, now Tiffany, you with the mayor. I have addressed this to the board before, was the money. How are we going to pay for this? The village cannot afford this. We are paying $5,000 a property, and I respect you totally, Attorney Bass. The issue I had, which I told my counterparts, was that we don't have the funds available. They want to take it out of the general fund. I think that we should still take the money out of the closing. So when we close or sell the house, that's when we should get paid. I don't think the village should front the money up front because we don't have it. If that's the case, I'd rather hire a police officer. That's what my take is on it. I'm just telling my take for the record, because everybody's bickering, going back and forth on it. Great program, but we just need to restructure and fine tune it. That way it will work. That way we're not taking from the residents, because that means we got to take $50,000 from you guys or from someone. Where it's going to come from? And then we have to wait and sit on our money in order to get it back. So that means we're going to be negative $50,000, right? I'm just using that because that's the number that was thrown out there. And then we have to wait until we sell the house to say, okay, now we down 45, now we down 40. What if it takes a year to get it? Then what do we do, residents? That's my issue. Other than that, I'm for the program. I just still think we need to restructure it or take that money off, or he have to get the money later. I don't think he should get the money up front. That's for the record.
Let me ask, traditionally when you buy real estate, you might say, oh, sorry. Here. So traditionally in the real estate transaction, do you get paid up front, or would you get paid on the back end?
When you have to litigate to get title, you pay up front.
Okay.
At a regular closing like she's referring to, you get paid at the end. Because as I explained to you, you're spending $2,500 up front in filing fees and publication costs. So from what she's saying, she expects me, the lawyer, to front $2,500. And Lawyers don't do that. That's not our business practice. What she's referring to is a vanilla closing where you sign a contract, the lawyer says, okay, we go to the closing, and I get paid just for reviewing closing docs. I'm going to court. I'm filing litigation. I'm arguing with other lawyers. That's not a closing.
Okay, as a resident, would you, understanding that you're for this and you have a heart for this and other municipalities that you spoke in terms of, would you consider being paid on the back end so that
I can't front the cost. See what I'm trying to say to you? There's cost up front that's at least $2,500. That's if you get no disputes.
Yeah, I just want to comment on.
See, that's what I'm saying to you. From a cost standpoint, and again, I've only been doing this since 1992, and
Sure.
I've never had this issue.
Sure.
Because, see, at the end of the day, the money is restored. Once the person, as she was saying, there's going to be people who will be interested.
Well,
I'm
not to
sorry.
cut you off, but to have a, I believe it can work, but it has to work because anything is hard for the unwilling. But if you're willing to find a happy medium, we can do that. Would you reconsider so that, because if you don't have the money, I mean, you can go shopping as window shopping, but if you allow me for my point.
sorry, sir.
If, say, I can afford to pay $2,500 for your costs because I know that you're going to litigation for this property. And now the township is not on the hook, but I'll pay for it as a resident for your costs.
Right.
It's not my cost. Yeah, or
the cost for you to go to court and then you say this is what it cost me. Then that way now I got some skin in the game because I'm serious because I'm paying, opposed to having us as the taxpayers pay this money. You'll know who's really serious when they come with that money to pay, not you, but whatever it is to litigate to get those properties.
If you heard me tell you, I started before and I said to you that we could have charged more, but that's the same rate that we've been charging since 1992.
Okay.
Start with that. The monies that you're talking about, that's not in my pocket. Law Bulletin, Recorder of Deeds, Sheriff, Clerk. Now, the Sheriff is a big one because every time you file on one of these, most of them have mortgages and they have liens that are out of state. Service on out of state runs anywhere from $100 to $200 a pop because everybody charges different. And they're California, Maine, they're all over the place. Then there's a title search that has to be done. And you have to pay for the title search.
Right, but attorney.
So there are costs up front associated with this.
But as opposed to just saying, here's $50,000 and here's, five. I'm just saying we were talking about 10 properties, whatever.
Well, I don't even know.
Or whatever, it's say $5,000 for one property.
Exactly.
And opposed to the township paying that money and getting a property and nobody qualifies for it and that's money out of pocket. Right. Would you consider allowing a person who comes with, I got $5,000. Okay, that shows I'm serious at that point because I got skin in the game. Opposed to you going to get 10 of these and then now there's money sitting here that we don't have because you're window shopping if you don't got money or you're on credit. And I'm just saying, is there a way to try to tell we can work this out that the people that come with the money at that point is now in a position to move forward. Right. Opposed to now I got another list of inventory properties now with more money outlaid. Opposed to someone paying up front and saying, oh, he got that $5,000 or $10,000. Now I can go ahead and finish up whatever the process is.
I understand what you're saying. And see, what I've been told that this money is coming out of your legal fees, something you've already budgeted for. So when I hear people say it's not there, the trustees have told me that it is there. That's why it's in the ordinance as to how it's to be paid. So when I hear people say, and I heard a trustee say it's not there,
it's not.
I don't know if that's true or not. The only thing I'm saying to you, the way the ordinance is written, it's coming out of your legal fees that's already been budgeted. And see, your point is, deeds will basically come down within the next 4 months, I believe, based on this process, if we get started. Because see, I have already done some of the legwork to do this because the trustees have expressed an interest to do it. So I'm already out of pocket.
Yeah, you already were. Yeah, okay.
Talking about skin in the game?
Yeah.
I've already got a lot of skin in the game because they're pursuing, at this time, 11 properties, but there are a lot of other ones that they didn't want. And I've already spent money on those.
Okay.
Because I knew that it was a program that was needed.
Okay.
Okay, attorney, so what is your fee?
My fee is whatever in excess of the filing fees and all the costs.
I know. So what?
Well, as I told you, you can average all of your costs together a minimum of $2,500 just on your cost.
Okay, so the
It has
cost
nothing to
to
do-
the filing and everybody else is $2,500.
A
and your
minimum.
fee is $2,500.
A minimum.
I know, but I'm
Yes,
trying
ma'am.
to. So it's about $2,500 to you, and then
Roughly.
$25 for the fees. right?
Because normally, what I look at, trustee, is that if there's, I'm trying to think of two of them I had. One of them, or a case that I had a while back, you had a situation where we went to court for a year and a half. And I was stuck on a $2,500 fee. So that killed me. But I take the position that all of them are not going to be that way, and you don't know. So that's why I came up with a flat fee, and that hasn't increased since 1992. And keep in mind, the properties that you're pursuing now, I've already spent money on.
So my question to you is,
Yes, ma'am.
I understand you saying you get paid up front.
No.
No, I'm saying you want us to front the bill, basically, because you're saying you already paid, right?
Right. Some of it. I haven't paid all of it. In other words, there's an initial filings that you have to do. And there's a difference between timing is another thing. And that's what we're bumping up against now.
Okay, so you're not willing to take the money when we sell the house?
No, because this is not a closing. I mean, I do closings for people. That's a butter, what I call a bread and butter real estate closing.
Okay.
This is litigation.
Then my other question is, I'm gonna play the tape at the next board meeting,
Sure.
but you don't remember me recalling saying you guys was gonna donate to the village, donate houses back to the residents?
When you say you guys, who are you referring to?
It was you and BP Capital.
I represent BP Capital. I am not BP Capital.
Okay, and that's why I'm confused at
Sure.
these two different transactions. So BP Capital is doing something different from what you're doing here?
No, BP Capital is doing something different than what you're doing. I'm nothing more than a lawyer trying to work with these two different entities, the village and BP Capital.
Right, so we got two different projects going from BP and then you.
No, it ain't. You keep saying me. It's
you just
not
said
me.
you're a lawyer, so
I'm
who-
a lawyer. I'm representing you. You're the second entity.
Okay.
BP is the first one. Village of Dolton is the second one.
So who told you to go after these properties here then?
Well, when we all met, I told you because you said you wanted to basically do this program yourself. So I said to you guys when we met, what I would be willing to do for you at my cost is to basically look at more than what BP was pursuing so you could later come back and do the program you wanted.
Okay, I never agreed because I didn't vote for the 5,000.
Okay.
I never agreed to pay 5,000. I always had an issue with that because my thing is to give back to the residents first. And if we was giving you guys our whole inventory, you guys, what I mean by
You're
it,
not
I know
giving
you
me.
represent to BP. Our whole entire inventory, I said up there at a board meeting, you guys gonna donate properties back to us, and you guys said yes. You would donate properties back to the village. So that means no cost. That means no $5,000.
I could never say.
Okay, well, I don't have
I'm
the
not
tape
BP.
now. Edward, you never pulled it for me? I know I asked you. I know you probably didn't have it today. So next board meeting, you have the tape for me, correct? And you will see everybody discussing this. And you guys said you would donate the property back to the village.
The only thing I could say to you is that I can only quote Anthony Bass as a lawyer representing BP Capital. If BP Capital told you that, you'll have to take that up with BP Capital. Because see, I can't make that representation to you. That's my client. I'm not the, let me get this straight too. I don't have an ownership in BP Capital. I don't have an ownership in any of the properties that they have because ethically I can't do that and I wouldn't want to do that because then it appears as though I'm taking properties for myself. So I don't do that. And the Creightons know me. I don't function that way.
Yeah, I didn't accuse you of taking anything. I'm saying that I don't agree with the 5,000, period. That's just where I'm at with it. I'm one vote.
Okay.
So I'm okay with doing this program, restructuring it, making sure the residents benefit from it, but paying $5,000 up front, no go for
And
it.
what I ask as a trustee, because this was a majority vote for this to go, if any trustee has an issue with the ordinance or the guidelines, of course we meet as we normally do, because there is no bickering. When you say bickering among the board, we have pretty much a united board of trustees. But any change or amendment or addendum that needs to be made, we can discuss it and add to it. But again, I don't see any bickering in this. The only thing I see, it's like challenging the attorney on fees. And we have about 3 attorneys now that we've hired that charge us per hour. But it's rarely that their bills or invoices are ever questioned that I know of. And I've been here since 2013.
And trustee, we did discuss this, and I did tell you guys we had an issue with this.
I agree.
Okay.
Let me say it one more time. The majority of us voted for this ordinance, and you stated publicly that you're not for it, and I'm saying again, as clearly as I can, whatever changes or amendments we need to make, let's come together and work on them. That's why we invited everyone here, so that we can get your input, just like what we're about to get now.
Right,
Thank
and
you.
I want to clear it up. I am for the program. I'm not against the program at all, residents. The issue is the funding, the money. How do we make it work? That's my issue. If we cannot fix that, then it will not be. But we need to fix that. Other than that, we will be in the same situation we in now, which is with no money.
I could appreciate that, Trustee Henyard. Thank you for
thank you.
asking some of the important questions, for sure.
Thanks.
I just wanted to say, I think you mentioned something about a timeline.
Who is that referred to?
The Attorney Bass, is there a timeline for this program before it has to be rolled out, or?
What I did was, there were so many properties, and when the trustees were discussing this issue, it was my position, I told them, that I would try to pursue or start the litigation, if you will, on more properties than what was requested. The timeline is what we call a statutory running of the notices, because technically I noticed up about maybe 45, 46 properties. Basically because they were vacant and abandoned, to put the homeowners on notice that they were in violation of the city's ordinance or the village's ordinance. And that notice and that publication and those things have a statutory time limit as to when you now can file the litigation to take the house. So that's the only timeline that I was referring to. I'm sorry if I
No,
confused you
not
with
a
that.
problem.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, actually, my only thing is, again, I'm for the program too. There are quite a few quirks and kinks, I think, that needs to be worked out. And as the gentleman stated before, it is very surprising to see that the room is not even crowded with the people that we need, a number of people that we need to really even be discussing this even further. So I'm hoping that we will have another meeting, and maybe we can do a better job at getting this information out there. I understand about the government channel and the channel that we use to get information out, but there should have been flyers sent. It should have been something coordinated, whereas everyone definitely knows that this is going on. Because again, I like the problem, liking what I'm hearing, but there are a lot of things I think that needs to be worked out. I feel that hopefully we'll have another time, and I know time is of the essence for you guys, but I'm hoping we'll have another time, whereas other residents who will finally get a chance to, get this flyer in the mail or verify that this program is out there, because they may have questions that some of us are not even thinking about, the important questions, the real questions that we need answered. So I'm hoping we can meet at another time, whereas we can have some more residents, and hopefully you guys can do a better job as far as getting that information out there, not just on TV and not just through the YouTube channel or anything like that, because I have plenty more questions, but I want to just definitely get them in thought, and I want to make sure that I'm asking the right questions. So hopefully before y'all roll this out, we'll definitely have a chance to have our own say-so. And thank you again, Trustee Henyard.
You're welcome.
Let
Thank
me
you.
respond to participation of residents and committee meetings or board meetings. I think I understand what you're saying. We need to market more. And the way we market is the following, like you just mentioned. We have Channel 4, we have Channel 99, we have the YouTube channel, we have the Village of Dolton. And there are other ways that we can get it to every resident in the Village of Dolton through a water bill. Everybody gets a water bill. There's a cost incurred in that. I've offered to do that. And there's information that I've wanted personally published concerning any type of meeting we've had. And it's been edited or censored. Case in point, we just had a meeting, and don't forget your question, Trustee. We just had a recent meeting where I had a young lady that's going to teach us about disaster preparedness. And I said, I would hope, if you listen to it, and I'm very careful in what I say, I would hope that this information will be posted on our media. To this date, it has not. When we had this, I gave this on the 20th. It was finally published, I think, on the 27th, a week later. And the reason why I got the date, I keep my tablet with me 24/7, and I constantly look. I would send an email on more than one occasion, not only to the mayor, to the clerk, and the media director, to make sure that this information goes out. That's free. The expense comes in when you talk about the mailings. Mailings is very expensive. Just figure it out, about 9,000 households times 43 cents or whatever it is. But let me tell you something about us. We're crowded at Black Friday. We're not crowded when we have a school board meeting.
Right, amen to that, right.
We're not crowded when it comes to a community meeting. We can do the best that we can, but we can't wait for everyone to come. We got to do whoever comes, we get the information out to them, and we keep doing it publicly. But you can't make people participate. You got to just do the best that you can. This is a decent crowd for a Saturday. I didn't think it would be this many, because when we have these meetings, we get the same faces. That one, I think about 4 faces that I see on a regular basis. The rest are relatively new. So we can try our best to get that information out, but there are some challenges because there's some resistance even in that. You know, you say division on the board. We got to get cooperation from the mayor, because the mayor is in charge of the media center. But anytime he stops that, or we have a community address and a resident is edited out because he didn't like what the resident said.
He gonna say something, then he gonna go
Okay,
back
so I
forth.
just want to, I just want to answer that. But let's go.
Like, come on, like, gosh.
Timeline before you guys actually roll this out, in case we have other questions or something like that. What is the time frame before this is rolled out for us to get our question in, regardless to anybody else in the village? What is our?
You have plenty of time. We're going to continue to have these educational meetings, as I mentioned before. We're going to have them on a monthly basis to educate you. The workshops, and NHS will be a part of that. Okay, let's get the other residents' questions.
Happy holidays, everybody. I would say I'm really encouraged by just the dialogue that's going on. So for Trustee Henyard, thank you for pulling this together. All the trustees for coming. The residents to chime in, and Mr. Moore, your point that we work for you, and I think everybody here recognizes that we work for you. Sometimes in our Discord, it may appear that, but I've worked with each trustee, with the mayor, and everybody here, whether we're in agreement or disagreement, I really sincerely feel is doing what we feel is in the best interest of this community.
Seeing progress.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of talk, as far as visual is seeing and activation.
Yeah. The I believe on this program, the spirit and the intent of this is a very good one. I think, and I don't think anybody would deny that we have a lot of vacant homes that need to be taken care of. And kudos for coming up with the program to address it. I think similarly with Trustee Henyard, the cost associated with it, and when we're talking about the cost, what I would hope that we would just kind of look at is the time frame that it's going to take from the time that we go to acquire the property to the time, so we can get projections on how long it would take from the time that we pay the money out till the time that the money comes back. And if I may,
That's a good question.
and if I may, and I'm saying that my concern is that with not in addition to the fees, that we may have a property, we may hold it for 6 to 8 months or 9 months, and it may not come back. It may not, but even if we lose money on the transaction, investing in a home is worthwhile to have somebody in that house. But we would like to put a dollar figure to that. And I think that's the biggest thing. And one other thing I heard Trustee Henyard say, as we make votes, that somebody will say, okay, well, you're with the mayor, you're with the trustees, or you're with whomever. And I would like to challenge anybody that has thoughts on a vote of any of these trustees, myself included, say, hey, why did you make that vote? Because I can guarantee myself, Trustee Henyard, and every trustee up here has their own rationale behind it, more than just that. So please go to each person individually. My hope or ask would be that we have just something kind of documented on. I know the structure is set up 5,000 and it gets recouped, but I would like to just clarity on the time frame and when does that come back.
Here's a good thing about this program. You're looking at a 4.5 month time, deeds come back. It may be quicker than that. So therefore, you'll have your money back, because as she was saying, the rollout between now and the rollout, all the questions that we've been discussing, the guidelines will be fine-tuned. So by the time you're looking at April, you'll have your money back. And when you talk about, and I heard some people say, well, what if we get stuck with the house? You have people that will be wrapped around this building trying to get a house for $5,000. Now, they may not be homeowners or want to live here, but you're talking about trying to recoup your money, you'll always be able to get that. And another thing, keep in mind, once you acquire the title, you own it. It's yours. That's why in the ordinance it says raffle or auction. So if you don't think that you have people who want it, I can assure you the developers will eat them alive for $5,000. You don't want them, but he was saying if you get stuck and can't move it, you can move it. I know it can. It was a question. Well, that was in heartbeat. It was a line, but I can't record.
Okay, guys, go ahead. Any other residents want to speak? We're gonna cut it short and just Ms. Creighton and anybody else after that. So you'd be the last two. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
No problem.
And it would have been nice if you ran the meeting, Madam Chairman, instead of another trustee. This is your committee. But I'm just going to say I'm tired of getting accused of not putting his information out. We editing and censoring things. I have two people right here. He's the director of our communications. That's a media person right there. They can verify what he sends in, we put out. We don't censor anything. And I'm getting tired of hearing that. And they can verify that. And I tell them don't censor it. And they don't censor it. Whatever comes out here and he posts on Channel 4, that's what shows on Channel 4.
Okay, next.
Thank you.
See, shit like that should be rebutted.
Good afternoon.
I'm gonna let it go.
There are many questions that I have this afternoon. I just wanted to make a statement. Critiquing the program has to be. And I believe that's the reason for the meetings, critiquing the program. The $5,000 or $50,000 or $2,500 that comes with critiquing. Definitely, it has been stated over and over again, we want to preference home ownership. And home ownership is not free. Court costs are not free. Even if you go to court on a ticket, it ain't free, and you got to acquire an attorney. So I really would like, and thank you, Attorney Bass, for clarifying the 4 months time frame. I'm not going to beat someone down for wanting to get paid, because everybody in here do a job, you want to get paid. Mr. Creighton and I have 6 children here in the village of Dolton. 6. We have 8 grandchildren. I would truly love for us to establish a program. And see, you guys, this is something that I keep saying. You all don't have to like me or love us, but I'm going to speak my mind. Amen. My mind is that we must establish ownership here in the village of Dolton. Our young adults, our oldest daughter is 44. Our youngest daughter is 30. They have children. And like that dad said over there, I'm ready for them to own their own. Get out. But my thing is this, in educating, when I went to the workshop on last Saturday, it was refreshing to hear the component of young people working on these properties as well as an investment, because there are 8 keys to success that we teach in the high school district. Ownership, flexibility, speak with good purpose. Those are some things that we teach young people, and I would love to see that happen with us as adults. I'm elated that we're not just speaking about what we're going to do. We're actually doing. I've been here, and I keep saying it. Since 1980, our family has been here. I've been the best liked, and I've been the most hated. It comes with the territory. But my heart is for us here in the village of Dolton. I always say that if South Holland got it, why can't we have it? If somebody else got it, why can't we have it? And this is something that I don't like to say publicly, but if we didn't have, it feels like a crab in a barrel syndrome.
Come on.
I don't like saying that, but that's the way I feel. I just don't think, I think we should all come together, and I understand critiquing, because it does need to be critiqued. And I think the meetings, we're actually having the meetings. How many times did you ask for meetings?
I don't know.
But we're having the meetings. So we're moving forward. We're moving forward. Can we just look at we're moving forward, not a guilt on this hand and not a guilt on that hand. I really want us to 2018 is just at the doorstep. I don't know if I'm going to wake up in the morning.
Amen.
You don't know if you're going to wake up in the morning. But 2018 is just at our doorstep. Can we put into our hearts and into our heads that we're going to get it right as much as we possibly can that's in our control? We're not perfect. None of us sitting in this room are perfect.
That's right.
None of us are perfect. We have things that we want to see accomplished. I do in the village of Dolton. I don't want to move nowhere else. Because if I move somewhere else, you know what? You got the same problems everywhere. The South suburban area has issues all over, whether it's South Holland, Dolton, Olympia, exactly, Olympia Fields, Lansing, everywhere. Everybody's falling into this rut. I just love hearing that there's affordable housing. When I told everyone about this meeting, and this is the second one, and there's more to come, those that couldn't make it today, they said, "What? You're kidding." I think that's great. Will there be bickering? Will there be arguing? Will there be, all this stuff, and they're not here today. But here is the deal. I don't have a hidden agenda. And I don't think any of you sitting in this room have hidden agendas. And I want to say thank you to Attorney Bass, to Trustee Muhammad, Trustee Hinyard, Trustee Pearson, Trustee Stubbs, Trustee Denton, Trustee Jason, the Mayor House, all of you guys, because we have to start somewhere. It ain't perfect. There's room for improvement. Can we agree to join hands to take each other by the arm? And that song on that bridgeway coming over, remember the bridge that we all came over, we tried to come over arm in arm and they shot us down? I don't want us as a community to be shooting each other down.
That's right.
We moved nowhere. We moved. There was an author that did a book on education. It was called The Rubber Band Effect. We moved 10 forward, and it pop it, and we moved 20 back.
That's right.
2018, we want to take the village of Dolton to the next level. And with all of us collectively working our little pieces together, God's going to put it there.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
No.
I'm not going to take up very much time, but I did make some notes. And Trustee Stubb, you mentioned love for the people. I have to agree with you on that. We do have to love people, even if we disagree. You still got to do it in love. So we're going to take that with us. I'm wondering if, with this program, has anybody thought about seeking out incentive programs that could perhaps entice more people to come, where they can layer more and more grants? Some banks do offer it, and I know of some myself that I can talk about to you guys with, but there are some programs that you may want to consider with that. There's another question. I have to say this. I would be remiss if I didn't. Ms. Creighton, you just said you're not going to beat a person up for getting paid. I won't beat them up either, but we got to have the money to pay them. So we can't pay them with nothing. So we got to make sure we have the money for that. And then there was another point I wrote down about the ordinance Is that available for everyone to read and make comment on?
The ordinance?
Either one of, I don't care.
Yeah, yes. Again, I mentioned the transparency ordinance we have. It's the duty of the clerk to make sure it's posted. I can look now to see if it is, but I know that there are a year and a half worth of minutes that has not been published yet. I don't know if this particular ordinance.
So if we want to
has
see it,
even
we can
been-
request it?
You can do it for you.
If it's not on the website,
Okay.
you can request it from the clerk.
Okay. Last one, I promise. Last one. And I do agree with this program. I think it's great and it's going to bring home ownership. We have to make sure it's owner occupancy, and that's how you're going to make sure you get more businesses in, because they don't want to invest where investors invest. They want to invest where there's homeowners, there's stakeholders here, and that's what they want to do. But I have to ask this question. The land bank did the same thing, but they didn't charge us for attorney fees. No offense, but you were not charged for attorney fees because they have their own attorneys, and they will do the work that's being done. And is it any way that you can work in conjunction with what he's doing? I'm not saying, how do you pay more? Okay. But I heard you. But
I want to answer that for you.
Sure, go ahead. How do you pay more? Because they're a nonprofit.
Okay.
You mean they pay more on the property? I know what you're saying. But here's the thing. Okay, let's talk about that for a minute, folks. So the money, they're not making any money, so let me show you how it works, because I work with them every day. The way that they work, if there is a tax lien on that property, they will absorb that. They will sell that property for $40,000, $50,000. They will have to get some rehab on it. Depending on what the work is, just like you're suggesting that there'll be a $40,000 price tag for repairs. That's going to be no different from the land bank. Really, it's not. Go ahead.
It may not be 40. That's the point I'm trying to make to you.
Okay.
The houses that we've seen in Dolton, as opposed to the ones in Markham, the ones in Harvey, these are a lot better shape. And trust me, they are.
Okay.
And therefore, it won't be as expensive for you to deal with a starter home. And what you telling me about the land bank, don't you bid on that? Yes.
Because who bid on it?
The people who want the house, don't you bid on those?
No. I'm going to tell you
Wait,
why.
okay.
Because if I have a client and they're interested in a land bank property, it's not a bid process. It's a real estate transaction.
But you still have to submit your offer, right?
Absolutely.
And they either accept or reject your offer,
Yeah,
right?
like any
and,
other.
And I can assure you, you're not the only one that submitted an offer for that property.
One at a time.
Excuse me?
One at a
What
time.
do you mean what at a time?
One person submits an offer at a time. So you can, just like I'm in line at 9 o'clock, I'm submitting my
know
offer.
if
We can
that's-
talk about this
Yeah,
offline because I don't want to take up their time.
Oh, yeah, 'cause
But
I gotta
this,
go to a funeral.
this process, I would just say entertain looking to see how the land bank works and seeing if it fits. I'm not saying disturb what you got going on here, but why can't we work together arm in arm and do some things?
Do that before.
Exactly.
You know.
Talking about the land bank before, and I heard nothing to this level. Now
Some
it's
people
the
got
land
houses, some
bank.
people did.
Well, the land bank was within the village of Dolton, but they were withdrawn. But what I'm suggesting, because we have this open forum and we're talking, bring it up again, because healthy competition is good, right?
Yes, and
Thank
to
you.
answer
Thank
that.
you. Okay, trustee, you
And
finna
to
close the
answer,
meeting.
hopefully this is closing out just quickly, and me and Ms. Wells talked about it before. I'll bring it to the board to see if they would consider having the land bank here and not working in conjunction with the other persons, but we can have them both. And I went to the workshop, the seminar, was it a workshop or seminar? A meeting. And they said they're willing to work with other entities with the village. So I'll bring that to the board and we'll see what happens.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from any of the trustees, the actual committee? No? Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion and second. Call the row. Trustee Stubbs?
Aye.
Trustee Pearson?
Aye.
Trustee Henry? Aye. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.